Welcome back to Cinema Recaps. Today I'll introduce a thriller mystery film from 2009 called Afterlife. Spoiler alert ahead, so watch out. Elliot Deacon, a funeral director, is preparing a body for a funeral. He gently speaks to the body before taking a photo with an analog camera. Meanwhile, Anna Taylor, a middle school teacher, and her boyfriend Paul, a lawyer, are being intimate in their apartment. Anna appears uninterested and seems sad, so Paul lights a cigarette and she heads to the bathroom. While showering, Paul and Anna start discussing their relationship. He wonders if she's happy, even though she says she is. It's clear that Anna is experiencing depression and anxiety. After arguing with Paul in the morning, Anna goes to work. When she arrives at school, she sees a boy named Jack being bullied by older students. She saves him, and Jack asks about a chick in the classroom, wondering if it has died. Anna comforts him and explains that it's just scared. Afterward, we see Anna working absent-mindedly at her desk. She looks unhappy and seems lost in thought. Anna takes some pills and continues with her work. At the end of the school day, Anna notices the lights in the hallway turning off one by one. She begins to feel scared and runs toward the door as the entire hallway plunges into darkness. Anna is so terrified she's about to scream when Jack appears and turns the lights back on. She's happy to see the boy and the eggs in the classroom. When Anna tells Jack that she is going to the funeral of her old piano teacher, Jack offers to come along. She gently declines, saying that such things are not for children. After leaving Jack, Anna decides to take more pills, but the box is empty, so she goes to buy more. Outside the pharmacy, she notices a hair salon and dyes her hair red. When she arrives at the funeral, Elliot is standing near the body, talking with his wife. Anna approaches the body and starts a conversation with a woman. It turns out the deceased is her old piano teacher. Elliot observes Anna and begins to take an interest in her. Anna's eyes play a trick on her as she looks at the body, and she is shocked when she sees her teacher exhale. Anna leaves the funeral and heads to her car, while Elliot continues to watch her silently through the window. That evening, Anna has a date with Paul, who plans to surprise her with a proposal before dinner. They both agree not to argue and to enjoy the evening. Anna notices that Paul bought an expensive bottle of wine, so she asks if there's a special occasion. They are celebrating Paul, and he then begins to explain that his boss offered him a new position at work. Anna starts to think he is breaking up with her, and they end up arguing. Paul doesn't even get the chance to propose. Angry at how things turned out, he tells Anna she's just like her mentally unstable mother. He runs after her, but she has already gotten in the car, turned on metal music, and is driving off into the rainy night. Being stressed, she doesn't pay attention as a large truck passes by. Instead of driving carefully, she starts dialing a number on her phone. We don't see what happens next, but suddenly Anna screams and turns the wheel. When we realize what happened, she is lying in the basement of Elliot's funeral home, on an embalming table, with a bruise on her head and wearing a short red dress. Elliot approaches her and begins cutting her clothes. Suddenly, she wakes up. The mysterious funeral director tells her that she was in a car accident and that she is officially dead. She doesn't believe him, so he shows her the death certificate. Anna still doesn't believe it and tries to move, but she can't. Elliot laughs, saying that everyone is in denial when they first wake up on the autopsy table. He lets her rest and turns off the lights. Anna convinces herself that she is having a nightmare and screams to wake herself up. Meanwhile, Paul wakes up in bed and realizes that Anna is gone. He wonders if she left him and regrets their argument the night before. Paul tries to call her, unaware that Elliot has her phone. The voicemail picks up, and Paul says that he wants her to come to Chicago with him, not to break up. Elliot ignores the call, placing the phone in a paper bag and opening an old cupboard filled with similar bags. He then takes a photo he took of Anna's late piano teacher and pins it to a wall full of similar photos. He begins talking to the photo about Anna. Paul goes to Anna's school to look for her, but she's not there, so he goes to her mother's house. Anna's mother tells Paul that her daughter is dead and blames him for letting her drive in the rain. Paul is stunned and begins to cry when Anna's cold-hearted mother tells him she never liked him. Meanwhile, Anna still believes she isn't dead and begs Elliot to let her go as he stitches a wound on her forehead. Elliot insists that she is dead and proceeds to inject a yellow fluid into her neck. The doorbell at Elliot's funeral home rings, and as Anna slowly slips into unconsciousness, Elliot leaves the basement to greet Anna's mother. When Anna's mother sits before her supposedly dead daughter's body, she doesn't shed a tear. Instead, she scolds her daughter for dying and leaving her all alone. But she doesn't forget to say one last thing before leaving. She wants Elliot to restore Anna's natural hair color, black. Next, we see Jack cutting out a newspaper article about Anna's recent car accident. Jack's mother sits idly, staring blankly at the TV screen, looking as if she herself is lifeless. Jack tells her that she needs to pick him up after school, but she doesn't respond at all. Meanwhile, at the funeral home, Elliot is cleaning his embalming tools upstairs. In the basement, Anna wakes up and realizes she can move her body. She quickly checks her pulse and slams her hand on the table, trying to feel pain in hopes of proving she's still alive. She gets up from the table and tries to use the phone in the basement, but the line is busy because Elliot is using it upstairs to confirm the details of her funeral. Anna starts yelling for help, but the doors are locked and no one is there. At the same time, Paul arrives at the funeral home and demands to see Anna's body, but Elliot refuses, as Paul is not legally considered family. As the two argue, Anna hears Paul's voice and begins shouting, but he doesn't hear her. When Elliot returns to the basement, he finds Anna sitting on the floor. She asks about Paul, but he only gives vague answers and turns the question back on her. Elliot asks if she ever loved Paul and begins to convince her that she needs to let go of the living world. Anna insists that she's still alive, but Elliot doesn't relent, continuing to say that she's in denial. After the argument at the funeral home, Paul goes to the police station, as he's a lawyer and many of the officers know him. They let him grab a soda, but he uses the opportunity to sneak into the room where they keep cars from accidents. He walks around among the cars and finds Anna's. When he sits in the driver's seat, he breaks down upon seeing a bloody bobblehead near the window. He has a hallucination of Anna standing next to the car, which frightens him, but fortunately, a police officer, a friend of his, comes to comfort him. Paul takes the bobblehead home with him, deeply shaken. While Paul is breaking down, Anna grabs a knife and tries to unlock the basement door, but as she approaches it, she sees another body in the basement, Mrs. Whitehall. Anna becomes anxious and begins to rethink her situation. Seeing the dead woman, Anna feels deep inside that she doesn't want to die. Just then, Elliot enters the room, but first he adjusts the thermostat, lowering the temperature in the room. Anna tries to kill him with the knife she had stolen, but like a master manipulator, Elliot challenges her to stab him. She doesn't go through with it. Elliot then begins explaining that he can talk to her because he speaks to the dead. He says his job is to help them transition. Then he shouts, questioning why she insists that she's alive when her life wasn't anything special to begin with. Anna becomes despondent and lies back down on the table. Not long after, she wakes up to see Mrs. Whitehall standing in front of her. The elderly woman, now dressed in black and brushing her hair, tells Anna that she's not ready. Suddenly, a dark metal door opens in the corner of the room. As Anna approaches it, she slowly reaches her hand into the darkness, when suddenly, a pale hand grabs her and pulls her inside. The door closes, and Anna finds herself in a mystical, dark world with faint blue lights. There, a small wounded girl emerges from the shadows and tells Anna she's disappointed in her. The girl also says that she's actually Anna herself and that maybe it would be better if she were dead. This vision is only a dream, as Anna returns to the embalming table and wakes up. She angrily stands up, pushing everything off the shelves and screaming in agony. Upstairs, Elliot is preparing flowers for Mrs. Whitehall's funeral. While putting on the final decorations, Jack approaches him and asks when Anna's funeral will be. Elliot is curious about the child but lets him go, then heads to the basement, where he finds everything in disarray. He begins yelling at Anna, asking why she pushed everything off the shelves, but instead of an answer, he sees her in a state of shock, wondering if she's alive or dead. Meanwhile, Paul is at his apartment washing his face when suddenly Anna appears naked. She turns toward him and begins tearing her heart out of her chest. Her upper torso opens up, bloody and raw, and as he screams, he wakes up to see the doll he took from the car turning its head toward him. In the funeral home basement, Elliot brings Anna's burial dress, prepared by her mother. Anna says she isn't ready to die and tries to start a conversation with Elliot, during which she secretly takes his keys. When he leaves, she attempts to unlock the basement door, but shortly after driving off, Elliot realizes his keys are missing. He quickly returns to the house, arriving just as Anna is opening the front door. She runs back to the kitchen. Unfortunately, he doesn't notice her. Unfortunately, she left the keys in the door, so there's no other way to escape, as all the other doors are locked. Elliot doesn't suspect she has tried to escape until he hears a noise, prompting him to search the rooms. Meanwhile, Anna grabs a knife from the kitchen and runs around the house, hoping to find a way out. When Anna finds a phone and tries to call Paul, Elliot quietly moves through the house looking for her. Paul answers the call, and Anna begins speaking and begging for help, but he thinks it's a prank and hangs up. As she holds the phone, Elliot finds Anna and continues to convince her that she is dead. He says, "You people, you always need proof," then leads her to a mirror, where she sees her pale reflection and begins to think she might actually be dead. While this is happening, Jack is outside and sees Anna through the window. Elliot notices this but smiles, seeing it as an opportunity to manipulate the boy. Anna seems to be convinced, and they go down to the basement together, where Elliot washes her hair, removing the dye as her mother had requested. While caring for Anna, Elliot receives a call to pick up a body and prepare it for a funeral. Paul is still grieving, so he goes to Anna's school to collect her belongings. In her drawer, he finds postcards and photos of himself that Anna had taken during a picnic. He breaks down as memories flood his mind. In a fit of anger and sadness, he sweeps everything off the desk. Meanwhile, Elliot and Anna are in the basement, where Elliot is preparing another body. He stitches the dead man's mouth shut to keep it closed and places plastic inserts in the eyes. Anna asks if Paul cried when he saw her, and Elliot lies, saying he didn't want to look at her. In reality, Paul has never seen her body. Anna then asks why people have to die, and Elliot responds that death is what makes life meaningful. He then injects the yellow fluid into her neck again, rendering her unconscious. At the school, Paul meets Jack, and the boy says he saw Anna at the funeral home wearing a red dress. Paul says that Anna didn't have a red dress, but Jack insists he saw her. Paul loses his patience, and when Jack suggests that maybe Paul doesn't love Anna anymore, Paul slaps the boy. At the funeral home, Elliot, behaving strangely, is looking at photos he took of the bodies and talking to them. Suddenly, he sees a police car parked outside and feels afraid. When the officer arrives at the door, he asks to see the body. Elliot steps back, as if considering an escape plan. But it turns out the officer is the brother of the newly deceased. Elliot sighs in relief and leads the officer to the basement. While looking at his brother's body, the officer notices Anna's body. She is unconscious, but her head moves slightly. The officer asks Elliot to leave him alone with his brother for a few minutes, and as Elliot leaves, he approaches Anna's body. It seems he suspects she might still be alive, but in reality, he only wants to touch her. When the officer touches Anna, Elliot returns to the basement and is confused by what he sees. The officer leaves, and Elliot becomes furious. He begins overdoing the makeup on the dead brother, making him look like a clown. He talks to the corpse, but since the body is truly dead, there is no reply. Meanwhile, Jack doesn't give up his suspicions and returns to the funeral home. The boy approaches the new body when Elliot arrives and scares him. Elliot tells Jack that the dead are drawn to him because he has a gift. He says they both have this gift, just like Lazarus, who resurrected Jesus. He tells Jack that the first person to speak to him was his mother and offers to teach him how to use his gift. While driving, Paul sees a red dress like the one Jack described. He remembers that Anna actually had a red dress, so he quickly drives to the funeral home. There, Paul finds Elliot trimming the bushes and insists on seeing Anna. He tells Elliot that Jack saw Anna through the window, but Elliot explains that the boy frequently visits the funeral home and has a vivid imagination. Paul becomes very angry, storms into the house, and calls out Anna's name as he runs down to the basement. At that moment, Anna wakes up, but she doesn't react, as she now believes she is truly dead. Paul leaves and goes straight to the police station, demanding they search the funeral home, but the police don't take him seriously, thinking he's just grieving. At the funeral home, Anna is lying on the table, and Elliot is preparing her for her funeral. She begins to open up, telling Elliot about her regrets and how she once wished for a different life. She lived a routine life and never really allowed herself to love because as a child, she learned that love only brings pain. When Elliot asks what could have made her life better, she replies that she just wanted to be happy. Elliot becomes angry and starts questioning her life and her relationship with Paul. Then he opens the door and tells her to leave, saying she has a second chance. But Anna has a terrifying hallucination and stands motionless at the door. Elliot laughs, as if to prove a point, saying that people aren't afraid of death, but of life. They return to the table, where Elliot continues preparing her for the funeral. Later, he goes to dig Anna's grave at the cemetery, and Jack unexpectedly appears, wanting to learn from Elliot. Elliot explains his philosophy on life, saying that he has the ability to see the walking dead, those who aren't truly dead but live without purpose, making life more burdensome. He tells Jack that this is his duty, and he has no choice in the matter. The next morning, Anna sits in the coffin, waiting for the final preparations before receiving the last injection. She asks Elliot to let her look in the mirror once more. He hands her the mirror, and as she exhales, she sees her breath fogging up the glass. Anna realizes that Elliot has been manipulating and deceiving her all along, that she is actually alive. As she protests, Elliot gives her an injection, and she drifts off. The funeral director then takes a photo of her. At the funeral, everyone is crying, including Anna's mother. Paul kisses her and places the engagement ring on her finger. He notices how cold her body is and begins to cry, slowly accepting that she is truly dead. Elliot quickly closes the coffin so no one discovers the truth. When everyone leaves, Elliot hangs Anna's photo on the wall, among hundreds of pictures of people he has deceived and killed. Meanwhile, Anna wakes up, buried alive. She screams and pounds on the coffin lid, but no one can hear her. At the funeral reception, Paul drinks heavily and is deeply saddened, still unable to believe Anna is dead. He confronts Elliot, but instead of comforting him, Elliot challenges him to check if Anna is still alive, saying he doesn't have much time. Paul quickly leaves the reception and drives to the cemetery. At the same time, Jack places a chick in a box and buries it alive, telling it that it's better this way. As Paul recklessly and drunkenly drives to Anna's grave, she is screaming in the closed coffin, running out of breath. Paul sees an ambulance behind him but continues driving on the road. The funeral director waits in his car with Jack and plays classical music. The boy asks if it's over, and Elliot confirms it is. Paul runs to the grave and starts digging, pulling Anna out of the box and kissing her. She wakes up, but Paul quickly realizes he is dreaming. The next thing he sees is Elliot standing over him at the embalming table, cutting his blood-stained shirt, just as he did with Anna. Elliot begins to convince Paul that he is dead. He says Paul never made it to the cemetery because he had a car accident. When Paul protests, Jack appears and watches the entire process. Finally, Elliot injects Paul with embalming fluid and his new victim screams in pain. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching.